November 16th, 1811, 400 terrified residents in the town of New Madrid, Missouri were abruptly awakened and tossed from their beds by violent shaking and a tremendous roar. A violent earthquake had just struck. The epicenter of this mighty earthquake was actually located in Arkansas near present-day Blytheville, and it was only the first of 3 large earthquakes and thousands of aftershocks that would rock the region that winter. Survivors reported that the earthquake caused cracks to open in the Earth's surface, the ground to roll in visible waves, and large areas of land sink or rise. Great waves and waterfalls appeared on the Mississippi River, and it's even reported it ran backwards in some areas. These dramatic accounts remind us that large and destructive earthquakes have been known to occur outside of the western United States. In fact, there's broad agreement in the scientific community that a continuing concern exists for another major destructive earthquake in the New Madrid seismic zone. So just what is the New Madrid seismic zone, and how does one prepare for the eventuality of a large earthquake here? Those are the topics of today's video. I'm Katie Wilson, and I'm going to tell you the best ways to be prepared. The New Madrid seismic zone is the most active seismic area in the United States east of the Rocky Mountains. It's made up of a system of faults, which extends from northeast Arkansas through southeast Missouri, western Tennessee, and Kentucky, and then it goes northward into Illinois. In the winter of 1811 to 1812, those faults produced a series of 3 very large earthquakes, some of the largest to ever strike in the United States. These earthquakes were devastating to the population, and they completely changed people's way of life. Survivors noted that the ground did not stop shaking for months after the shocks were felt, and you could feel aftershocks for years. The New Madrid seismic zone is really active. Earthquakes occur here nearly every other day, but a vast majority of them are too small to be felt. There have been over 20 damaging earthquakes in the area since the events of 1811 to 1812, and scientists have found evidence to suggest that large earthquakes occur here in cycles, and that they occurred as far back as 900 AD and 1450 AD. And because they happened here before, we know that they'll happen again. It's just a matter of time. Now, this can all sound kind of scary, but there are things you can do to lessen the damage done to your home and the impact that they have on your life. So prior to an earthquake, check for hazards around your home. For example, check the shelves. Bookshelves should be anchored to the wall to prevent them from falling over. And this is a really easy fix to do. It's really inexpensive. Parts can be found at any hardware store, and you and your parents can complete the project in less than 20 minutes. So once the shelf is properly anchored, make sure that you place any heavy items on lower shelves where they can't fall on people once it starts shaking. Check any televisions or pictures or mirrors that you have hanging on the wall. They also need to be properly anchored, as do your lights and your ceiling fans. Remember, the #1 cause of injury during an earthquake is not the shaking of the ground, it's the stuff that falls on top of you. While checking these hazards in your house, check also for secondary hazards. Things like gas lines, which can break during an earthquake and cause a fire hazard. So make sure that the gas lines leading to appliances are flexible so there's room for them to move around during shaking. Also, have your parents check the water heater. If it isn't secured properly, it could tip over and flood part of the house. During an earthquake, you want to drop, cover, and hold on. That means you're going to drop to the floor, take cover in a safe place, and you're going to hold on to it so it can't shake away from you. Identify as well how you're going to exit a building. In the event of an earthquake, the power could go out, there could be dust from debris, there could be smoke even from a fire. So you're going to want to be able to find your way out quickly, and if you identify how you're going to do that beforehand, you'll know which way to go. One of the most important things you can do to prepare yourself for a major earthquake is to put together a disaster supply kit. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and once you start, you're probably going to realize you have a lot of the items you need sitting around your house. But the benefit of putting those items in a kit is you're not going to have to go around looking for them in the middle of a disaster. They're going to be in a central location and all together. So let's get started. You'll need to find something to keep all these supplies in. A trash can or a plastic tub like this one is great for these kits. They can store a lot and they don't take up much room. So what are you going to store? Well, you want to store things such as water. Actually, lots of water. You need at least 1 gallon of water a day per person. And don't forget about pets. Pets get thirsty too, so you're going to want to make sure that they have it in there. You also need to store food. You want to have enough food that you're not going to go hungry, because you might not be able to just run out to the grocery store. Or even if you can run out to the grocery store, there's no guarantee that they're going to have a lot of food there. But the important thing to remember about the food is that you don't want it to be anything that needs to go in the refrigerator, and you don't want it to be anything that you're going to have to cook. Unless you know that you've got access to an open flame, such as a charcoal grill or even a pit in your backyard. You don't want to have to cook it. If the power's out, you can't just walk up to that microwave. You want to make sure that you have flashlights. Flashlights are very important because, again, electricity goes out, power goes out, you don't have any lights, so you want to use a flashlight. You might also want to get some emergency candles. They'll last a really long time, and they can be a good backup if something happens with your flashlight. Make sure you have matches as well. You don't want anything that's going to require fuel. If the power's out, television's out, so you got to make sure that you have a way to get information. So you want to make sure that you have a radio. It either needs to be battery operated with plenty of backup batteries, you want those for your flashlight as well, or it needs to have a hand crank on it so that you can turn it and then you'll have the electricity to it. Tools. You never know what you're going to run into when there's an emergency. A multi-purpose tool like this is a real lifesaver. So you want to find something like that, easy, you can pick it up at any hardware store. Any other tools that you can think of, you'll want to put those in there as well. In the event of any kind of a disaster, not just earthquakes, you never know. Windows might need to be boarded up. You may have to take a door off its hinges just to get out of the house. So you're going to want to have access to tools so that it's easier to do. Anything that you use in your everyday life, if you want it, you need to add it in there. This counts, soap and shampoo. Nobody wants to be the sneaky guy in the house. Also, if you take medicines every day, make sure that you've got at least a copy of your prescription if you can't have a copy of the medicine in there. And let's not forget about Fido and Fluffy. Pets get hungry too, pets need medicine. Make sure that you're taking care of your pets. You also want to make sure that you have a first aid kit. Anything can happen in the event, whether it's the shaking, you fall down and cut yourself, or anything can happen afterwards. You may have to climb over glass to get out of the building. So you want to make sure that you have a first aid kit so that you can take care of anything that happened during the event and after the event. So now you have a basic preparedness kit, and you can go to www.ready.arkansas.gov to find out some more items that you might want to put in there. Remember, a little preparedness goes a long way.